back with Hank Zipser. Help somebody get me out of fourth grade. We have the main characters, Hank Zipser, Ashley, best friend, Frankie, the best friend, Miss Adolf is the teacher, Nick the Tick is the bully, Emily is Hank's sister, she's a geek, very smart, and Robert is Emily's nerdy best friend who is in a grade below her. The whole gist of the story is that Hank is afraid that he's going to have to do fourth grade over. So it's kind of, he's on a mission to make a plan on how he could do that. Yesterday we left off where he won the radio station contest where he had to name 10 cities with the word rock in them. He did that, and now he has this plan that he's going to give this trip to go see the Stone Cold concert in Philadelphia to his mom and dad, so that way they wouldn't be around for parent-teacher conferences. All right, so we are on chapter 8. I covered the phone with my hand and whispered to my dad, "Give me a second, Dad, and we'll promise you get the answer that you're looking for." Remember yesterday he was doing that crossword puzzle? My dad wasn't getting the clue that I wanted him to leave. "Robert," he said, "you're usually full of useful information. Any ideas?" "Actually, Mr. Zipser, my special knowledge is in the reptile world rather than the rodent world. Although I once did a book report on the life cycle of the black-tailed prairie dog, and I found it quite fascinating," he replied. "Yeah, Dad," I said, trying to edge him toward the door. "Robert is kind of a snake iguana guy, and not a mouse rabbit gerbil kind of guy." Boy, did I really want to get my dad out of there. We needed to finish the arrangements with Cousin Ralphie on the radio station, and I didn't want my dad hearing about the concert until I had the whole plan figured out. I motioned to Frankie with my eyes, but he wasn't getting it either. I motioned with my head, and he still wasn't getting it. "Hello," I whispered. "Ding dong, anyone home?" Frankie looked puzzled. Finally, I jerked my thumb toward the door. I gestured toward the living room and then toward my dad. "I think you might find the word he's looking for out in the living room," I said. "You know, the room out there, the one where I'm not talking on the phone?" "Right," Ashley said. "Ah, right," I said. Frankie nodded. At last, he was with the program. He's usually pretty good at picking stuff up like that. Not today. "Come on, Mr. Z," he said. "Let's go into the living room. I always find that synonyms for rodents come to me a lot faster in the living room." "Maybe it's because the ceilings are higher," I threw in. "Yeah," said Frankie. "There is a whole lot more oxygen floating around. It's better for the brain." Before my dad could answer, Frankie and Ashley had him by the arm and were escorting him back to the living room. Robert laughed his snorty little nerd laugh, which sounds like my dog Cheerio when he has a cold. "More oxygen in the living room," he snorted. "Actually, Hank, everyone knows that the number of oxygen molecules per cubic square foot varies according to the density of the atmosphere, not the height of the ceiling." A little fact for you, too. "That's so interesting, Robert. I think you should go and see if that theory works in your apartment, like right now." "But what about Catherine?" he said. "She needs me." "You're absolutely right," I agreed. "Catherine needs you to leave the room. Bye-bye, little man." I basically shoved Robert out the door, which is easy to do because his bony little self doesn't weigh much more than a pocket rat. Come to think of it, he kind of looks like a soaking wet pocket rat, except without the tail. I put the phone receiver back up to my ear. "Are you still with me, caller?" Cousin Ralphie said. "What's your name again?" "Hank Zipser," I answered. "That's a W fun kind of name," he said. "Zippy, but not zippified." I laughed. Cousin Ralphie was always so funny and full of words. It must be amazing to have words on the tip of your tongue like that. To never have to search for a word or for a thought. Me, I'm always looking for the next word. The right word, any word. My brain isn't smooth like that. It's more like a dark, rocky cave with words and thoughts hiding behind every boulder. And I'm in there searching around with a flashlight, not finding what I'm looking for. "Hank Zipser, here's what you won for your parental unit. They'll be picked up by a limousine and driven in style to Philadelphia." So think of New York City to Philadelphia. They'll get the red carpet treatment backstage at the Theater of Brotherly Love as they arrive for the Stone Cold Rock concert. Wow, that sounded great. I wish I was going. At the concert, your parents will be treated to front row seats, after which they will join the band for Philadelphia cheesesteaks, the city's most famous sandwich. For those of you that want to know what a Philadelphia cheesesteak is, it is very awesome. It is thin pieces of steak covered in a type of cheese, usually mozzarella or provolone. It's awesome. My mouth was watering. I could almost taste that cheesesteak. The next day, they'll ride back to New York City in luxury on the fully stocked band bus. So picture that if you're with your favorite band and you get to not only have front row concert tickets to them and you get to hang out with them on their bus. Oh my gosh, wouldn't that be amazing? And by the way, if they're into tattoos, we'll make a stop at our favorite tattoo artist, who will give them any design of their choice on any part of their body. How does that sound, caller? Do they have to do the tattoo part? I asked. My dad passes out when he has to get a flu shot at the doctor's office. Cousin Ralphie laughed. You're a funny dude, Hank. Real zipperific. Cousin Ralphie took my phone number and told me someone would call me later to make all the arrangements. I thanked him about 158 times. He thought I was just thanking him for winning the trip, but I was really thanking him for making it possible for me to go on to the 5th grade. I hung up the phone and let out a big sigh of relief. For a split second, I had that wonderful floating feeling when all of your problems just disappear and are solved. But that feeling only lasted for a second, maybe even less, because right away I realized that problem number 2 was waiting for me in the living room. There was my dad, sitting in his blue boxer shorts, chewing on his mechanical pencil, hunched over his crossword puzzle, trying to come up with a synonym for an extinct rodent. How on earth was I going to convince him that he really, really, really couldn't live without going to see a Stone Cold Rock concert? I'll tell you, this was not going to be easy. Chapter 9. I love making lists, kind of like Mrs. McEvers. 10 reasons I could give my dad to make him want to go to the concert. So he's got a list right here. 10 reasons. Number 1, you could be in the Guinness Book of World Records for being the oldest person ever to attend a concert, Dad. Number 2, you could be in the Guinness Book of World Records for being the most uncool person ever to attend a rock concert. Number 3, you could be in the Guinness Book of World Records for being listed twice in the Guinness Book of World Records. Number 4, you could see a rock concert and the Liberty Bell and Ben Franklin's grave all on the same day. That would be cool. Number 5, you could get a tattoo of a crossword puzzle on your upper arm muscle. Oops, we're talking about Stan Zipser. He doesn't have an arm muscle. Number 6, you could get your mojo working. I don't know if that counts because I have no idea what mojo is. Number 7, you could bring back a whole bunch of souvenirs for Emily and me. That would make you feel so good. You always say that it's better to give than to receive. Number 8, you could have a really great time. Okay, it's not likely, but the point is it could happen. And number 9, see below, Hank's note. Sorry, all I could come up with are 8 reasons. So get a pencil, go up to the top of this chapter, cross out the word 10, and write the word 8. Unless this is a library book. You never write in a library book. I made that mistake once and had to spend 3 weeks of my allowance replacing the book. Chapter 10. I had my list, and I had my job cut out for me. I told Ashley and Frankie to wait for me in my bedroom, and I marched myself into the living room. I stood in front of my dad and looked him right in the face. I told him about the concert and how I won the trip to Philadelphia for Mom and him. I told him how really great that was, and how there were people in any city in the world who would kill to have those concert tickets to Stone Cold Rock. Then I recited all of the reasons on my list of why he should go. Correction. I didn't just recite the reasons. Nope. I acted them out like I was auditioning to star in a Spider-Man movie. I acted them out with feeling, with guts, with all of my heart. My dad sat there and listened to me. He nodded thoughtfully. If you just looked at him, His head was going up and down, a little smile curling up around the corners of his mouth, his chin resting calmly in his hand. And you would be 100% sure that you were seeing a yes from Stan Zipser. But if you open your ears and listened, you would have heard him say one of the smallest words in the English language that goes a little something like this: No! Chapter 11. My mom's dad is Papa Pete, and he is not only the nicest grandpa in the world, he is one of the smartest too. Papa Pete always tells me that a no is just an opportunity for me to change it to a yes. So when my dad said no, that he had absolutely zero interest in going to a rock concert in Philadelphia, or anywhere else in the world for that matter, I took it as an opportunity to turn that tiny little no into a big fat yes. But Dad, I said, running after him as he stomped into the kitchen, you've got to be open-minded about the possibilities of new adventures. Isn't that what you always tell me when I don't want to eat one of Mom's new food experiments? Hank, there's a big difference between you taking a bite of your mother's meatless papaya trail mix burgers with crushed cashews and me standing in a stadium full of lighter-waving, leather pants-wearing fans shaking their rumps to the music without a melody that gives me a headache. Dad, can you honestly look me square in the eye and tell me that you want to miss out on all of this fun? Yes, I can, he said, looking me square in the eye. That's exactly what I'm saying. Aren't you perceptive today, Hank? Sometimes, Dad, you shock me, though, because knowing you as I do... Hank, my dad interrupted, I am not going to the rock concert in Philadelphia. End of discussion. He left the room and went into the kitchen. I could hear him opening the refrigerator to get out the cranberry juice and club soda. He mixes them together to make a half and half, a drink that to me really tastes sour, but he says it's so refreshing. I turned around to see Frankie and Ashley creeping into the living room. They had obviously been standing by the door listening. Okay, so that didn't go very well, Ashley said. No problem, I answered. We will just move on to plan B. You're a man of action, Zip, Frankie said. That's what I like. What's plan B? Well, I have no idea. I was hoping that you had one. There's got to be something that's got to make them want to go to Philadelphia, Ashley said. We just have to figure out what that is. My dad says that people travel to see something that they love, Frankie said. Like when we went to Zimbabwe to see the village where my ancestors came from. And my dad went to Moscow to look at the videos of small bowel function, Ashley said. By the way, you should know that Ashley's dad is a doctor, and not some kind of nutcase who loves to watch movies of people's guts and action either. He's a good doctor. What are things your dad loves? Frankie said to me as he plopped down, besides crossword puzzles, which we all know that he loves more than cranberry juice itself. Well, he loves my mom, I answered. I sat down on the couch next to Cheerio, who was asleep on his favorite pillow. Without even waking up, he cuddled up next to me and put his head in my lap and shook his leg like he was chasing something in his dream. No, dude, that doesn't help us get him to Philadelphia because your mom is here, Frankie said. Well, we could kidnap her and leave a note saying that he'll find her in Philadelphia, I suggested. Zip, that's pretty extreme, Frankie said. Use your brain. What else does he love? I don't know, I said. Well, if you don't know, who does know? You're his son. No, I'm just stupid, I snapped. Maybe I deserve to stay back in the 4th grade. I scratched Cheerio behind the ear. Dogs are lucky, I thought. The only thing that they have to learn in school is how not to pee on the carpet. I could learn how to do that. It's the long division that I don't get. Guys, we don't have time for you to argue, Ashley said. We have to keep our attention on the goal, which is to get your mom and dad to Philadelphia. And by the way, you are not stupid, Hank. Bingo, said Frankie. Bingo? I like the sound of that. Bingo what? Bingo as in let's come up with another idea, Frankie said. All 3 of us stared at one another, trying to come up with an answer to the question. What would it take to change my dad's mind? It was so quiet I could hear car horns honking on the street 10 floors below. I heard the elevator doors opening in the hall outside our door, footsteps, and the slap of the doors closing. It was probably our neighbor, Mrs. Fink, leaving for the painting class she takes over at the senior center. Every painting that she does is a picture of food. Her last painting was called Kebab, a study of meat on a stick. It showed these really juicy chunks of meat on a skewer, looking all spicy and juicy and delicious, just like they are in real life when Amir grills them out on his cart on the corner of 74th Street and Columbus. Boys and girls, you have to remember they live in downtown New York, so they're going to have food carts all over, and we don't have those in Holly. You can find a couple of them downtown Fargo, but that's about as close as they come for those food carts. What's going on, Hank? Ashley said. You look like you have a good idea. I was wondering if Amir is making kebabs right now. I could sure go for one, I answered. Frankie shot me a look like I knew really well because I'd been getting that look from him for my whole life. Get with the program, Zip. Stay focused. We're thinking about Philadelphia, not roasted lamb. Maybe he was thinking about Philadelphia, but I was way down deep. I was thinking about the roasted lamb. Welcome to the inside of my brain, people. It goes where it wants, whenever it wants. There was no chance of pulling it back now. I have a suggestion, I said. Why don't we move on to Plan C? And we did. In fact, we moved all the way to Planet M. We sat on the couch and thought and thought and thought. We flopped down on the living room carpet and thought. We stood in the hallway and thought. We went into my bedroom and listened to the radio and thought. Every plan that we came up with had something wrong with it. We just couldn't come up with the perfect magnet that would attract my dad to Philadelphia. There it was, Philadelphia. That city where Benjamin Franklin flew his kite, where the founding fathers wrote the Constitution, where the Phillies and the Philadelphia Eagles play, and most importantly, where my parent-teacher conference was not. Only 2 tiny, little, measly hours from New York. So far, but yet so near. We will stop right there.